welcome everybody to the Applied Information Show. Today we've got a really great session. We're here with Chief Tim Milligan from the City of Marietta Fire Department, and we're talking about emergency vehicle response. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you. Appreciate being here.
And what we're going to do is, I'm first just going to hand over to not Jessica today, but to Emily, who's going to be taking us through some of the housekeeping today. So thank you, Emily.
Hey everyone, yes, welcome to the iATL show. As Peter mentioned, a couple of housekeeping items for you today. To have the best experience, I'll ask you to enable speaker view. It's in the top right of your screen. Switch from gallery to speaker view. The second item is I'm going to chat out a live stream link. So Zoom is not currently streaming in HD, but if you prefer that, I'll send you the live stream link via YouTube that you can click on. And then the third item is we would love to hear from you. So any questions you guys have during the discussion today, use the Q&A chat feature at the bottom of the screen, and I'll pause Peter and we'll get some of those questions answered and keep it as interactive as we can. But welcome, we're so excited to have you all join us today.
Thanks, Emily. So today, as I said, we're talking to one of our nearest and dearest customers, City of Marietta. And City of Marietta have been working with us for the last 4 years.
4+, yeah.
And we've had a constant improvement there. But what I wanted to talk about first of all is, who is Chief Tim Milligan? And where do you come from? What's your professional role, and how did you get to the position you're in now?
Sure, yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having us. I'm certainly glad to be here and talk about preemption. So just a little bit about me. I grew up in California. I was the kid that said, I'm going to be a firefighter when I grow up. And in 1997, I was lucky enough to get hired for the City of Marietta. And through that time, I've been with the city for 23 years. So through that time, I served in multiple roles in multiple divisions, and was fortunate enough to be selected to serve as the fire chief just 2 years ago. So I've been in my current role as the chief of the department for 2 years. So it's been a great experience. It's everything I hoped it would be as a little kid, and I've really enjoyed it.
So did you come up in the ranks in terms of, were you first a firefighter, moved up the whole way through?
Yeah, so hired as the kid that was going to save the world as a firefighter, and then kind of my career path was through our technical rescue program. Then I spent some time in fire prevention, went back out on shift, went back into fire prevention, into training. I've kind of done it all, if you will, within the fire service in regards to all the different aspects that we look at as a department, as a service as a whole. So it served me well in the position I'm in now to kind of understand what's going on and take best approaches for the problems we're facing.
Yeah, and I suppose you can definitely look into all these different aspects that go on, because when you understand everything from the ground up, sure. I think that's really important.
Yeah, it is. It's a good thing, because when the problems approach, I can view those and bring the team in as a whole, and okay, how do we going to attack this and understand and be able to pick things apart, because it wasn't that long ago that I was on the truck responding to these calls and faced with the challenges that these guys are faced with every day. So I can look at it through that lens and understand what's going on.
Now, we started working with the City of Marietta more than 4 years ago, but with the preemption system around about 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. What was your experience with that? I know you weren't the fire chief at that time.
Correct.
But what was your experience as you got into it all 4 years ago to kind of what it is today?
Yeah, so we initially, when that system came on, I was assigned in our fire prevention division, and the fire chief at the time, Chief Gibbs, brought the system on, and under that umbrella within the fire prevention division was our data management team. And so we spent a lot of time, as the system was coming on, kind of trying to pour through that data, understand what was going on, and make a heads or tails out of it, because there's so much data to go through with the system. And with it being early on, we faced some challenges in regards to what that data was telling us and trying to work through and clean it up. But we're continuing to fine tune that. Even 4 years later, we're continuing to fine tune that system. So I wasn't fortunate enough to have that when I was in the field in regards to preemption and responding to calls. But I can tell you, I've seen the system work, and I hear, the guys talk about it now, and they wouldn't operate without it at this point.
So is it that critical that, having a preemption system there?
It is. So for us, it's probably top 5, top 3 as far as pieces of equipment go. So we in the fire service kind of, we've got our fire truck. We've got to make sure there's water in it. We've got our medical equipment. We've got to make sure it's operating. We've got our air packs. We got to make sure that they're operational. Our turnout gear and our preemption system. So we put that in a top 5 category to ensure that that system is functioning every day.
So how do you go about? I mean, what's the process of the fire department in the morning? Do they go out and test things? They turn it on? What's their process?
So we faced a real challenge with the guys trying to understand that technology, because before the previous technology was all line of sight, right? So we had to have this little blinky light on the top of the truck, and many on the webinar here probably understand, and you see a light that starts blinking, and so it's all line of sight. So when it worked, and it didn't always work. And so, we had to do a real shift because the individuals thought that was kind of the same technology. So we had to bring them in and train them on what the technology was. That was the first step. And once we started explaining to them the advancements that this technology has now, they started to understand it just a little bit more. And then, we had to they kept saying, okay, how do we know if it works? How do we know if it works? How do we know if it works? Essentially, if they get to an intersection and the light's red, the system isn't working. And so we've built an in-house system that these guys can go in and put a help desk request in, as we call it, and they're able to, that system then fires off emails to everybody who needs to get it, including AI. And so we're tracking the system, make sure it's working that way.
Yeah, and it's quite an interesting thing because, when we first started working with the city, we found that, we had an average saving of somewhere around 45 seconds to 60 seconds, but since you've been there, you've done a whole bunch of training with the actual fire department there and the actual firefighters who are driving the vehicles. And we've seen this improve from 60 seconds to basically a minute and a half.
Right, because we're working so what we've done is obviously to make sure is the system working, is it not working? And not only are we making sure that, initially it was if you get there, the light's red, you need to put the ticket in so we can understand, dig in and see what's going on with the system. We've taken that a step further and truly trying to optimize the system. So, we've all got those intersections that we get to that are high traffic. Doesn't matter what time of day it is, it's high traffic. So what we can do is work with AI to build these customized paths, if you will, to allow that traffic to get clear. So, we might get there in the light screen, but if we have traffic, we can dig into the data, understand, okay, if we go to this traffic, 75% of the time, we know we're going to hit the next 2 intersections. Well, let's go ahead and clear those out beforehand. And so when we're getting there, that traffic, not only do we control the intersection, but the traffic's gone.
That's absolutely amazing. So what I'm going to do here is actually show everybody just a little bit of a video of what Marietta has actually implemented within their city. And you'll be able to see a little bit, how they're actually utilizing this.
Every time they answer a call, every second is critical. Every traffic light, potentially the difference in firefighters responding in time or not. In Marietta, firefighters have an advantage like no other department in the country.
There's over 120 intersections in Marietta, and they all have this technology built into them.
Traffic lights with beacons connected to emergency response vehicles.
We're the only fully connected city in the country.
Every light turning green on demand for emergency vehicles to get where they need to go faster.
It makes our job a lot easier.
And safer. On average, the Preemption software saves firefighters 10 seconds per intersection. Most calls involve at least 6 intersections. That's 1 minute or more per call. Studies have shown that this technology, if used across the entire country, could help save 300,000 lives. This is part of the future of smart cities, and Marietta is on the leading edge with this technology. Not just more efficient, but life-saving. It's available to everyone through the Travel Safely app. Drivers can download it and be connected to the same network as emergency responders.
And we're really excited about it. It's one of the apps that we hope help citizens live their lives better.
The app's easy to use, it's easy to download.
I usually turn it on every day on my way to work.
The more people that have the app, the better it's going to work.
With the app, drivers are notified when they're in a school zone, about to run a red light, and if they're speeding. At every intersection, a color-coded countdown and a voice prompt.
Get ready for green.
For changing lights. Convenient for drivers, critical for first responders.
We are very lucky to have a system like this.
This is how smart cities grow for the good of all. And Marietta is one step ahead, keeping us all safer as we travel while answering calls faster than ever.
So you can see Marietta is obviously on the leading edge of technology, not just on emergency vehicle preemption, but also on smart city technology. One of the things that was very interesting in that video was them talking about a 10-second saving per traffic signal. Do you want to tell us why there's a 10-second saving? What would normally happen?
So, in a typical response, in any kind of city, you're going to be responding, and as you come up to these intersections, we can't just run through the intersection for obvious reasons. And so, we have to slow down, we have to weave our way through the traffic that's all stopped at the intersection, which, in any metro city, you're going to be faced with, probably any city, you're going to be faced with those challenges trying to navigate through those vehicles. So they have to kind of start to get out of their way. Most of the time, they don't know what to do, because it's not every day a fire truck comes behind you, so they start to panic. Do I pull out into the intersection? Do I go up on the sidewalk? Do I turn left when I shouldn't? Those sort of things. And so once we kind of get those people moved out of the way and we kind of fish our way through it, then we have to stop at the intersection, wait for the other, the cross traffic to stop until we control the intersection. And, coming up through the ranks, we always taught you had to account for every lane of traffic, and then you would slowly kind of inch the vehicle, the apparatus out into the intersection until you had them all, and then you'd have to get going again. And of course, when you're talking about a 60,000-pound vehicle, you can't stop on a dime, so you have to slow way down, and it doesn't exactly, they're not Ferraris, they don't take off again. So every bit of 10 seconds when you're going through intersections, if you catch a red light. And so again, the preemption system, we get there's no traffic there, we own it, and we're straight through. So it's easily 10 seconds.
So that's why you basically saying to us beforehand that what you're seeing is you actually improving the response times all the time by getting and seeing where there is an area that we can actually
Correct.
go and flush out further ahead.
Right. So a great example for us, we have a main kind of thoroughfare, Highway 41, and another kind of main thoroughfare that crosses that's near the interstate. If it's 3 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there's traffic in that intersection. Well, what we've done is we've looked at, okay, if we hit this light, we know we're going to that light X% of the time. And so we're triggering that, worked with AI to geofence and work all these different configurations, and we clear that traffic out. So now not only do we own the intersection, do we control the intersection, we have the green light, there's no traffic when we get there. And so it's saving time. And so we're really diving in deep through our data to understand, and we've pulled up our high call volume concentrations. Where are we going? Okay, is our system optimized to get us there as quick as we possibly can get there? And when we found some challenges, we just made contacted AI, made the tweaks we needed to make to it, and we've seen improvement through those even after AI came on board. I mean, we're continuing to always improve that system.
So, you talk about the continuous improvement, but I think what's critical is you spoke about changing the culture and training. Can you talk about that? Because
Sure.
I think that's such an important aspect.
Yeah, so when I stepped into this role, it was fairly the technology was fairly new. And again, like we mentioned, the old technology, the crews were kind of used to. And we really found a challenge to, okay, how do we get there? How do we get these guys to buy in and invest into the system, understand what it can do? And so we worked with, again, AI reached back out and go, listen, we need some training, right? We need you guys to come in and sit down with all of our guys, all of our shifts, whether, of course, now you could do recorded webinars and that sort of thing, but we did some hands-on stuff. And you could really see just the light bulb starting to come on with these guys. And so, that was kind of the first step in shifting that. Then the next one was around the help desk request, just streamlining the process. If they find a problem, if it's just arduous, I got to fill out this form and send it over here and email this and that, nobody wants to do that. If it's a one click on a desktop, they put it in, the problem's fixed, and they're looped in through that whole process of getting it fixed. They know that we're vested in it, they're vested in it. And ever since we did the training, included the kind of the help desk ticket platform, and basically told them, if you get there and there's traffic or a red light, you put the ticket in. Those 3 things right there really changed kind of that culture around it. That was our first step, and then we took it to the next step with, this is just as vital a piece of equipment as anything else that you would use for life-saving, daily for activities we see every day. Like we talked about our turnout gear, air pack, our EMS equipment, that sort of thing.
So what's your message to the guys? I mean, is your message, hey, if you're not getting green lights, how many incorrect green lights do they need to get before they report something?
Sure. So what we've seen now, it took a little while to get there, and we've done some kind of following up because through the system we can kind of go back and go, okay, no, we're having healthy, status reports here. We've seen some issues. We'll look and say, okay, are we seeing those issues come through the help desk side of things? If they're not, what's going on and why? We're to the point now, if our responders go on a call and they hit one red light, and they could go through 15 intersections, but if they hit one red light, we see a help desk ticket come in to get that system fixed. And a lot of the times it's just, it's technology, right? So it might be a hard reset there, or this was off that, or just a kind of a one-off type of deal. But we're seeing for single intersections now, where before it was, hey, the system's not working at all. So that's where we've really transitioned and moved to, and it's a good thing, and it brings me comfort in that our guys responded. That's probably one of the most dangerous things we do every day, is respond to calls, because people just don't know what to do when they see a big red fire truck behind them. And so the fact that in the intersection is the most dangerous, I have seen, I don't know how many times, us pull up, stop, control the intersection before the preemption system, right? Trying to control the intersection. Again, the car's coming through, sees us in the intersection, they don't know what to do, they panic, they slam on their brakes, well then someone hits them. And it's a chain reaction that we've caused. And so it brings me great comfort as the chief of the department to know that our guys, that's just another safety tool that we've given them to ensure that we can get where we need to go safely, but also protecting our citizens even more.
Now, that's a great point. I mean, what goes through, because you've been there before, what goes through a firefighter's mind as he's driving to the scene? I mean, obviously there's all sorts of different things. There's driving, there's traffic, there's, what am I going to go see? Yeah. What goes through someone's mind?
It's tough. So not only if you're the one operating the vehicle, you're having to figure out, okay, how am I getting there? How am I going to get everybody, my crew there safely? When we get there, what are we going to be doing? Because you got to be thinking about the different type of call you're going on. But you're also operating this very large vehicle that has the very real potential of killing somebody if you're not handling it correctly. So the stress level is very high. And that's one of the most dangerous things we do is respond to these calls. And so, every piece of safety equipment that we can add to it, we're going to. And this was hands down the best one that we have seen so far. That's for sure.
And I mean, you talk about one of the most dangerous places, but are there any statistics or percentages of firefighters that are involved in accidents and deaths and that come up to the top of your mind that you think about?
It's been a minute since I've really looked at any of that. I really couldn't quote off the top of my head. I know that accidents are large. I mean, we see a lot of accidents. It's just the nature of the beast. Of course.
And since you've had the system, then do you see? I mean, have you seen a reduction in the number of accidents and intersections?
So, since in the 2 years that I've been in this role and haven't really paid attention to what's going on with that, we haven't had any accidents in regards to us either controlling intersections, someone hitting somebody along those lines. I mean, we've had a few accidents, but they haven't been related to the response side of things. So that's a dramatic change. It's a dramatic shift for us, and I think now that's why one of the reasons we're seeing, again, back to single intersections, one red light on a 15 in a row, we're putting the help desk ticket in because it's a priority for us.
So in other words, what you're saying is also huge improvement in obviously safety.
Yeah.
But as you go on, constant improvement adds to the safety and also to the response time?
Absolutely, yeah. So again, if we can clear the traffic out, knowing where we're going, we're not only going to get there faster, but there's no one for us to have to really interact with, if you will, as we're driving, because people just panic and they don't know what to do.
Now, here's an interesting question. We get asked this quite a lot. The risk profile that you guys have, because now you haven't had an incident or an accident in the intersections. Has your insurance rates dropped down because of that, or have you looked into? Because I get asked that question a lot of times. Have you looked into the insurance side of it, of whether or not the insurance companies are going to reduce your rates?
I haven't specifically. The city of Marietta is self-insured, and so It's a bit of a different animal for us. And so I really couldn't speak to that too much.
Okay. Yeah, there's. I understand in the fire department, there's
Sure.
all sorts of different. Either you have private insurance, or you have state insurance, or you have city
Sure.
insurance.
Yeah.
Each one of those change, so the profile of your
Correct.
business changes.
Yeah, but again, we can't. And I get the insurance part, and I understand the kind of return on investment and that sort of thing. But our business is seconds matter. The fire service seconds matter. Whether it's 10 seconds, 30 seconds, we're always looking for a way to shave time to get to those citizens that need us. And so, I mean, it's easily quantifiable that we're saving, on average 1 minute per call. That's significant. When you start talking on the medical side, a minute is a huge, huge difference. And so now that's hard to quantify, in hard numbers, but there is a study out of the Midwest that talks about that if you can save 1 minute, per call, that we can save 300,000 lives throughout the United States. That's significant. That's powerful. And so that's what we have to kind of lean on sometimes with this stuff, the safety aspect of it, but more than anything, it's the delivery of the service that we are to our citizens.
I remember speaking to the city manager, and he said, I don't know how many lives we've saved, with this technology. Yeah. But he did also say, there's and I'm ignorant of this, which is, there's the opioid epidemic.
Correct.
And apparently there's a magic thing that a Narcan.
Yes.
Tell me about how that actually works, and how that actually, for you guys, those seconds, how much does that actually help?
So we are in an epidemic with the opioid-based, problems, and there is a drug called Narcan that we can push that immediately stops the effects of that opiate-based, and we can get into the science, but basically it just jumps on the receptor and kicks off the opioid-based, poison, if you will, that's going on. We can sit people right, they might be unconscious. We push Narcan, they sit up and they're talking to us. So, it's powerful, and so seconds matter with that. And so, we're just, again, blessed to have this thing. And another one, talking about the city managers, another aspect that we can look at is with time savings. NFPA is full of standards and response times, golden hours, all that good stuff. By saving the time that we have, we're able to, you can look at it in the cost savings of, okay, if we need to put on the fire station over here because of our response times, but now that we're able to, with the preemption system, cut those down, we don't necessarily need that fire station. And so we've looked at it kind of quantitatively that way as well from the city side, that, you pretty much spend whatever you want to on a fire station, but, we're talking, let's just say $5 million for a fire station. Well, we're saving that money because we can meet those standards, the response standards now, because the preemption system has allowed us that time savings, and it's only getting better as we continue to optimize the system.
And I suppose, with you working with fleet as well,
Yeah.
you used to looking at that data. And I've always spoken, to some other people about, how you can use the data, seeing where are the furthest trips away, that you're getting in terms of where do we build the next fire station, or where do we need more vehicles?
Yeah.
Is that something that you guys are looking at as well?
We are. So I call it our chess pieces. We're always looking, basically right now it's a 6-month look back for us. We're looking at it every 6 months. Okay, where are our call concentrations? Where are our guys going to the most? We take the AI data coupled with our CAD information, and we basically look at our chessboard, which is the city, and make sure our chess pieces are where we need them to be. absolutely. So remember, chess, not checkers, right? Chess is we're thinking ahead, checkers is reactive. So we want to get ahead of it and see kind of where the trends are going.
Yeah, and I think that's a great thing, using the foresight, what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
One of the things I did want to ask you about was, if another fire department has to call you up, what would you give them as their top 3 reasons as getting a justification of putting in an emergency vehicle preemption system?
Wow, I'm not sure I can narrow it down to 3. I'll be honest with you. So. First and foremost is the safety aspect for your crews, for our firefighters. They're safer for the system, hands down. Secondly is the ability to respond quicker and save lives. Can you quantify that? Probably not every day, but is it happening? Absolutely is. There's not a doubt in my mind. And then just the third reason is and I guess I'm going to be biased or jaded, however you want to say it, but we've had tremendous success with AI and the customer service of it all. I mean, any problem we have, it's not within a couple hours, and we're hearing back from what's going on and how to fix it. So it's been all around just a wonderful relationship, that's for sure.
And one of the things that I know that you guys have been very active in, and I think this is a critical thing of why you guys have been so successful, is you guys have monthly meetings every single month with the fire department. I know applied information's involved, and the city managers and the traffic department all get together, and you guys discuss what are the changes, what can we do to improve it. Do you want to talk about how that's actually helped you? And obviously everybody get together and actually, make improvements.
Yeah, it's interesting. So basically, we get the meeting, a monthly meeting. We get the, kind of the spreadsheets of the data beforehand to kind of go through to understand the health of the system, health of the units. And early on, through those meetings, we identified that, our frontline unit might be out of service and we might be in a reserve, and we're having these issues. And so, of course, the city was so committed, we now have the system in all of our reserve fleet. So no matter what emergency apparatus we're in, we have the AI system in there working. So, that was kind of early on that we learned. We get to meet with the traffic guys to understand kind of what they're seeing. Our IT folks are in there because we're trying to pull all this data and work through it and refine it, because we want to really work on kind of dashboards and understand holistically in the city, whether it be the fire department, the information technology guys, right down the streets guys, kind of, okay, what's it telling us and what can we be doing? And I think the street guys are starting to tweak their traffic patterns around some of that information as well.
So you're talking a lot about the data. What are the kind of reports that you find the most interesting for yourself to look at?
Yeah, so from my side, for the fire chief side, one of the biggest things that we can control in our response is from when the tone drops to when the truck's moving. We call that our turnout time. That's what we can't control as a fire department. So we're really digging in hard to understand what that is. The CAD data that we can get can kind of be murky sometimes. But these are hard and fast with, it's capturing when the truck is rolling, when it's actually moving. So we're kind of bringing those two together. We're really working through that just a good bit. But we're also, now that we, again, have built the data around, we're able to look back on high call volumes and where were we at response time wise and where are we at now. And we're seeing an improvement in those longer runs that are kind of our more common areas, if you will. So we're digging through that. That's where we're starting on right now, and of course, who knows where it's going to go from here. We love to get into that data and figure out what's going on.
So again, you coming back to the same story of we trying to improve, constant improvement all the time, which I think is what every fire department should aspire to. Is we're never done.
Yep. Yeah. In fact, I drive my team crazy probably a good bit because I'll challenge them with something, they'll come back with it, and I'll say, "Fantastic! What are we? How are we going to make this better now?" And I think they're probably used to it now, which is a good thing. But when you start rolling technology in to solve problems, that's something technology is ever evolving. So that problem needs to be ever evolving in regards to how we're going to optimize what we're facing. Absolutely.
And I think that's one of the key aspects is with any city or agency, is continue to optimize. When you go put in a preemption system, 4 years ago, the roads would have been different to what they are now. Now, all of a sudden, there's beautification that's happened. There are medians that have been put in. You need to go in and adjust
Absolutely.
all the time.
Yeah.
But it starts from what you're talking about in terms of changing the culture in the fire department so that they know it's a critical piece of apparatus.
Yeah, no, it took us a little bit to get there, but now it's not a set it and forget it. It's not a put the box in, turn it on in the signals and just go away. It's pretty cool once you start digging into, because we had to make a few changes, and once everyone realized what we're able to do with it, it's like Pandora's box opened up, and all of a sudden, I mean, it's just amazing what they came up with. In regards to how to optimize and streamline, customize what responses that they were going on. It was phenomenal.
I remember that when we were talking to the firefighters and we were talking to them about left turn indicators and right turn indicators, and the system actually follows if they're turning left or right, and it makes a big difference. And now you see all of your firefighters. I know when I look at the reports, you can see the left and right turn indicators active.
That even something that simple, oh, the system isn't working. I turned left and the light was red, or well, did you turn your signal on? No, because when we're driving emergency, that really wasn't something that they did for whatever reason. It's just hey, I'm running emergency. I don't really need to indicate where I'm going because I'm stopping the whole intersection before I make the turn and go through it. But once we kind of pushed that out there and said, listen, guys, if you know you're going to turn left at an intersection and you're hitting traffic, if you tell us, or hit your blinker back here, we can clear all that out. Man, there's one in particular intersection I can think of. Once we did that, I was getting emails like, holy cow, this is the coolest thing ever, And so, it's that simple once they realize the technology works. A simple blinker, and they got a straight shot with no traffic in front of them.
And I know in some of the stations in Marietta where they have a lot of intersections right outside the station, they've got some special rules that if they turn their left turn indicator on when they're in the station, it triggers 3 to 4 signals upstream.
Yeah, one station in particular we had a problem with that. The light was red even with the preemption system working, so we had to kind of work through that. And you have your nuances with the station, which is fine, and the guys there know, hey, I need to do this first. This particular station, they always met traffic when they got out to the kind of the main thoroughfare. They were having to cut through a parking lot. That's just not okay. That's a dangerous thing. And so we dug in, figured out a solution, and now we have no problems.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So in the city of Marietta, you guys have grown since you first started. I know we originally had about 115, 120 traffic signals. How many traffic signals do you have now, and how many pieces of equipment are you actually utilizing?
So we have 137 signalized intersections now. So anytime a new light goes in, the preemption goes in. It's not even a conversation. And so our whole fleet of vehicles on the fire apparatus side, again, all of our frontline equipment, all of our reserve equipment. So any truck in the city of Marietta that is painted red and it's got lights on it and will respond to emergency has a preemption system in it.
So in the city of Marietta, you guys have any mutual aid calls that you do with other cities? We do.
We run an automatic aid with Cobb County. And so we basically dropped the jurisdictional boundaries with us and Cobb. And it's in fact some of the challenges we faced early on with the help desk stuff coming in is once they crossed over into Cobb County, they were hitting red lights, and so they kept hitting us back. This isn't working, and we kind of had to refocus that just a little bit. And same thing with Cobb coming in, the system's not working for them. So it took a little bit of education with our guys. In regards to kind of where those city boundaries were, where the system kind of unfortunately drops off.
And you guys were the first guys here in Atlanta to deploy it, but now the city of Atlanta is deploying it, city of Sandy Springs, city of Alpharetta, city of Gainesville. They're all sort of following your footsteps there. I'm sure that those cities all come and talk to you and get advice. What's the kind of advice that you provide to those cities?
Ask the questions. If you can dream it up, ask the question. Challenge your guys to dream it up and ask the question. that was the biggest saying that I was trying to tell all our individuals. If you can think it up, there's probably a way we can make it happen, and just basically take the box and throw it out the window and start completely over. Understand that this technology is completely different than what we were used to, 10, 15 years ago on the fire truck, and you need to maximize it to its potential. And the only way to do that is to just come up with these crazy ideas and see if it can work. And every crazy idea we've come up with so far is working.
Brilliant. And so one of the things that I know, I've spoken to a number of people is how do you educate internally within, not just your firefighters, but the city managers, the politicians that are involved in this? How do you educate them? Because, oftentimes we have a lot of cities that, they struggle to do that education.
Yeah.
How have you as city, get together with all of your different organizations?
So, I'm lucky in this sense where the previous Chief Gibbs was one that really championed this technology, and the city leadership from the very beginning was on board. From what I understand the conversation, it wasn't really we're not sure. It was, absolutely, we're doing this. And so I've been the recipient of all that hard work, and I just get to go make it look cool. But what I can tell you is the city manager and all of our elected officials know what this system can do. And again, whatever we have to do to support that, they're going to do to support that, because they know the citizens are safer and their firefighters are safer. And so, to the point where we're trying to work with the police department, they're demoing some stuff. They're starting to see the reason behind it, and so hopefully we'll get them on board as well.
Okay, so you're talking about the police department. Let's focus in on that. Are they thinking about putting in the preemption system into their vehicles?
Correct. Yeah, they're looking at it. They're trying to work through it all at this point. I know they got some test systems out there in certain vehicles, so they're looking at it. We get a lot of questions from them. What I can tell you is once we start explaining it to them, and it's getting it out. It's just talking about it. But I predict it won't be long. They'll be running the system as well.
And I mean, obviously, the police department, they probably have. Would they? And this is me being ignorant here. Would they do longer calls? In other words, because do they have as many stations that you guys have, or do they end up driving through more traffic signals?
So obviously the police department runs a little bit different than we do. So we run out of 6 stations in Marietta, as most fire stations do, where police departments, larger ones, may have precincts and they're kind of out for the day or for their shift. We work 24 hours. They typically work 10. So they don't really have a home base they go to, for example. So they're out and about. But they don't run emergency quite to the volume of calls that we do. So they're not really faced with that same chance, if you will, to come across somebody on the intersection. So I think that's maybe why it's just a touch slower to get them on board. But I know that they're looking pretty hard at it.
And what about the ambulance services? Is that something that you guys have looked into as well?
Yeah, in fact, we have a great relationship with our local ambulance service. I've talked to them about it a good bit. The problem that they face, because the one we have is so large, is, one ambulance might be in Marietta one day and over in Rome, Georgia the next, which is, 2 hours away. And so, again, how do you think outside the box? And I've urged them, hey, is there a portable unit that you can somehow attach that ambulance that's going to be assigned to that area for the day? And as this system grows, now you have that technology with you. And the individual I talked to, once we kind of worked through it and they saw some of the videos, I mean, they oh yeah, we can see this,
And I suppose it definitely helps as more and more of the areas like City of Alpharetta
Correct.
and City of Sandy Springs puts the systems in, that allows those companies to actually go and add in.
It's technology, right? So it's fairly new. And it's new to the fire service. I've had the opportunity to talk to some other fire chiefs out there. Hey, what do you think? And the hardest is explaining the difference in the technology to them. And once they kind of get through that, they start to understand it a little bit more. But again, like with our ambulance service, oh yeah, we used to have that system, and the light blinks and blah. No, it's totally different. And so it's just once they see it, it'll really take off even more.
You talk about technology. One of the things that we saw in the video earlier was the Travel Safely app. And this is how obviously we are changing with technology and we're evolving. How do you see the potential of that app working with the citizens where they actually get notifications of the emergency vehicles?
I see it as a huge win personally, because, again, kind of going back to, if I hear a fire truck coming, what do I need to do? Is it coming my way? Is it coming the other way? We're all kind of blinded by it sometimes, especially now with the technology in the cars and the sound systems and everything else. More and more people can't hear the sirens coming from those fire trucks because cars are now tighter, they're quieter. It's all the stuff that we want as we're driving around in a vehicle, but it presents challenges to us. And so if we can integrate that and pull that together and somehow be able to tell that car a mile down the road or a half mile down the road, hey, there's a fire truck coming, then they can start to do what they need to do. Reduces the chance that they might hit somebody or pull into something and do something that they shouldn't do. So I'm excited to see kind of what the future holds. The app is our first step that we're seeing here, for the city of Marietta. I have talked to some citizens; they appreciate it. It's not every day that you come in contact, if you will, with a fire truck as they're responding to a call. But the few I have talked to, they're glad to see that, hey, something's telling me that this is coming, because I want to get out of the way. People want to get out of the way because they know we're in a hurry to get where we're going. Mm-hmm. Last thing they want to do is feel like they're slowing down a response. It might be their grandmother or their mother or their father. So the integration is going to be a huge deal for the fire service.
That's brilliant. I think what we're going to do is we're also going to go and have a look at one of the videos that we have where you're basically talking through what an actual emergency run looks like. So I'm going to play this video over here. Maybe you want to talk through this.
So this is a great example of what we're just talking about. So this unit here would actually, you see that parking lot kind of to the right. Once the vehicle goes by, the truck goes by there, they'd actually cut through that parking lot to get back onto the main thoroughfare, which presented challenges. And one thing they kept saying is, hey, we get to this intersection right here, and it's...
You just told me when to pause, because they give you some time to...
Oh, no worries. So
okay.
They were having trouble getting to this intersection, but you can see we made some tweaks. They got the green light, people are moving. And another one was, hey, if they turn left, what we'll see up here in just a second is they're going to get the green light going through the intersection, which is a fantastic thing, because we're controlling the intersection at that point, but we have traffic in front of them. And so what we were able to do is go in and say, okay, if that truck, this engine that we see here on the video, if they come out of the station and hit their left blinker, we now clear that intersection out, plus the next two, and so now they're driving through this road and the traffic is gone.
And one of the interesting things I saw there was the green left turn is active and the straight is active.
Correct, because they hit their left turn signal coming out of the station.
And I mean, that obviously brings everybody to a complete stop at a traffic signal,
which is a great point. So in the past preemption systems, we would get the green light going through straight through like we see here on the video, but the other traffic would also be coming the other direction. We control all the pathways, so all the traffic stopped except for where we're going to go.
So you can go left, you can go straight,
Correct.
You can go right at every intersection, and you know that everybody else is stopped.
Yep.
And because there are other, depending on the departments, they do different things in terms of, do you want to have, just green and green that direction, but it's a safety aspect.
Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely. You can tweak it however you need to. And again, it might be that on certain thoroughfares, and we've done this on the, down one of our main thoroughfares, for example, we know if we're going to go through that intersection, we're not going to turn left, because if you turn left, you go into the Walmart parking lot. Well, we're not there very often, so we'll let that traffic continue to move while we continue onward. And so it's that customization that really helps kind of fine tune that. And it takes a while to fine tune. I mean, we were working on it, we're continuing to work on it.
Yeah, and things change, new places open.
Absolutely.
You went from 115 to 136 intersections.
We've seen great growth in the city, and that presents challenges. And as we continue to grow in a population, we're seeing our response times go down. I'm not sure too many other people can say that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Let's continue this video, and we'll see some of the other aspects. So as you're driving.
Yeah, so they're continuing on, and this is one that really one of the first ones that we customized kind of from this video. We used it as a training tool. And again, this traffic should be gone because we're about to go through another intersection. And generally what we looked at is if this particular unit kind of goes through those lights, they're not going to turn right at that previous intersection, they're going to continue on. And so now we're starting to see the traffic lighten up even more. We're about to come through another intersection, so that light is clearing out and pushing out. And so again, it's thinning out, and that's helping our response time even more.
And this is an interesting thing, from the difference between optical preemption and GPS and cellular, is we're doing an around the corner preemption, where obviously optical is a line of sight. So you could never ever do this with one of these.
Not even close.
And tell people a little bit about, Marietta itself in terms of, all of the intersections, how many hills and corners and things like that there are in Marietta.
Yeah, so I've heard Marietta called the city on the hill. Is not that Cobb County is exactly, mountainous by any stretch of imagination, but we're a typical kind of rural, not rural, but metro kind of population, if you will. And, we've got our mix of industrial and residential and everything in between. So, yeah, I mean, one of our main thoroughfares is just this constant bend. I mean, it's just a constant bend all the way around. So you're never going to hit that line of sight until you're 20 feet on the intersection. At that point, it does no good. And so, yeah, when you talk about the GPS, and that's the biggest thing that we had to get to everybody. It's no longer the line of sight. This new technology, the GPS, is just amazing in what it can do. So it's been night and day. And I mean, I was the guy driving the fire truck. I was the driver for many, many years. Why isn't the Opticon working? Why isn't the Opticon working? Because it can't see it. So I wish we had this when I was driving.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the great things with technology. It keeps on evolving.
Absolutely.
And obviously with this system, you guys are using redundant radio and cellular communication. So the idea of doing a preemption request, in a far away distance, like you said, 3 intersections down, is all possible.
Yeah, I want to say our longest preemption call, I think we looked at it a while back, is just shy of a mile. So basically we're saying if we trigger this, those next 3 lights need to go. So we really stretched it out because, again, that intersection is always busy.
So what would you say to some of your peers, if they've got a small city or large, let's say someone's got a small city and they've just got 20 traffic signals. Should they be putting in a preemption system?
Absolutely, yeah. It's just a smaller system to maintain. It's fantastic. But it goes back to seconds matter. It's really that simple. It's seconds matter, lives matter, the safety aspect of it all. Whether it's 20 intersections or 5, I guarantee you are faced with those challenges of getting through the intersections on the calls you go on. Now, if your data tells you that you don't go through those intersections, then don't worry about it. But I doubt that's the case. So, 1 to 2,000, this system is something you need to put in, just from the safety aspect of it.
And obviously the aspect of you were talking about cities are going to have choices of what do they do? Do they go and put in a new fire facility, or do they optimize what they have right now?
Sure. Yeah, and I've been having some discussions with a neighboring department around that. They have a certain station that their response time is just, the traffic is so bad they can't move. They come out of the station, they just cannot move. To the point where we're gonna have to put another fire station here, and it's like, well, listen, you got to look at some technology for solutions first. In that, because if you implemented something like this, you might go from a 10-12 minute response time. You cut that in half at minimum, probably more, because the traffic's moving.
Perfect. I just want to check in with Emily to see if she's got any questions at the moment from anybody. Emily, do you have any questions?
Yes. So a couple questions about data. You've talked in general that you're looking at data, but what all types of data are you actually able to see from this system? And then kind of with that, Peter, maybe you can answer what type of technology, what equipment is going along with the system that we're talking about today?
So the data question is a good one because the amount of data that we're able to get out of the AI system it'll make your head spin. And so, how do you, which is a good thing, right? Because we're trying to figure it out together. How do we dive down into that to understand what it is? And so what we're doing is we're taking that data and we're trying to lay it out. Specifically, what we're working on now is, okay, from the time that truck starts moving to the time we get there, what does that look like? And then we're also looking at from the time the truck starts moving to the time the call drops through our CAD system and trying to get a true understanding of our turnout times. And so those are our two main focuses right now. To the point we're trying to build a dashboard out where we can see that like on a daily, if not weekly basis to understand kind of real time what's going on. Because we can control the turnout time. So if we can shorten that up, then we're going to continue to shorten up our response times. But again, we're watching trends within our busier units. Okay, if originally we were averaging this response time to this general area, has it gone up, has it gone down? Why? And so we're digging into that just a little bit to understand, okay, is it traffic? Was there construction out there? That sort of stuff. We've got a big, huge emergency room being built in the city of Marietta. We saw our response times for that area kind of slow down a little bit. But now that the roads are opening back up and they're about to open up that emergency department, we're seeing those improve back. So we can account for that anomaly and understand that, no, we don't have another problem going on in the system somewhere. So those are really kind of our main focuses at this point.
I wanted to actually just touch on something there. You said the things that you can control and can't control.
Yeah.
What is the process if someone phones 911? What is the process from that call till getting on scene?
Sure. So you call 911. The 911 call takers. What's going on? What's the emergency? They have to kind of classify it that way. Then they put in the system. The CAD system then alerts the fire station and says, hey, we need this unit to go on this type of call. So our guys then, stop what they're doing and move to the truck, whether they need to dress out for the fire call, get ready for the medical call, that sort of stuff, get in the truck, then they start the response. And of course, as we're responding once we get to the scene. But what we find is, and what some of the challenges we're faced with in Marietta is those tone drops and everyone wants to kind of stop and sit around and listen to what's going on rather than start moving to the truck. And so I think we kind of lost our way with that just a little bit. And so if we're focusing on it and that's a priority for us, we can remessage that with when the tones drop, guys, start moving, right? That's something we can control. And so
when you say when the tone drops, that's the siren in the station.
That's the tone in the station going, whatever beep beep, hey, engine, you got a call. And so that's what we can control. And again, it goes back for us, and not to get too far off track, but for us from Marietta, it's a service we're delivering, right? What do we want to do for our citizens? How can we be the best we can be? And that's one thing we can do, is make sure we're making that as short as possible. So we're watching that. And of course, then on the response side, because you're going to spend all this money to improve response times just to turn around and give it right back in turnout times, what have you done? You haven't helped yourself. And so we got to make sure those two are working in concert with each other.
So turnout time is the time from the call coming into the station to the time that the people leave.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then Emily, to answer your question, is the second part of your second question was, what is the equipment? So I'm just going to grab some of the equipment over here. This is actually the device that goes into the emergency vehicle. So this is the vehicle preemption unit, and there's no operation that a fire operator needs to do. It's when he turns these emergency lights on, this thing starts requesting green lights. There's some things down here at the back, and if you guys want some more information, we can send it to you. But there's a couple of different, there's a GPS, there's a 900 megahertz radio and a cell antennas that are put onto the top of the vehicle. And then at the back of the unit, we're monitoring the emergency lights, the emergency brake or the door open for a pickup vehicle. And then we're also monitoring the left turn indicator and right turn indicator. So as we were talking about, we can do a preemption on the left and the right. So this is what goes into the emergency vehicle. And there's a slightly bigger unit that goes into the traffic intersection that does emergency vehicle preemption. So there's actually a dial over here that allows the traffic department to test that the preempt number 1, 2, 3, and 4 is all working correctly. So it's a good way of testing. You just press a button and change the dial here to just test if everything's working correctly. And then this unit as well has got I'm not going to go through all of the different things over here, but it's basically monitoring everything in the cabinet. So you'll actually know if there's a cabinet that's actually dark. So should we avoid this traffic signal because it's dark? Is this cabinet in flash? So we can know whether or not we should avoid that. And that information can be provided to the traffic department, to the fire department, to everybody, so that they know what's going on. And then it's monitoring a bunch of other things over here and providing communications. But this is the unit that goes into the traffic signal cabinets. So there's, it's a pretty simple system, but obviously it's one of those things that, as you put it in, there's optimization and everything like that, as Chief Tim Milligan's been talking about. I just wanted to check with Emily, if you got any more questions there?
So one final question from a participant is about the Travel Safely app. In your view, Chief Milligan, is this a must-have? Do you guys find value? You spoke a little bit about it helps direct the citizens where to go, but talk a little bit more about if you think this is a must-have.
Yeah, so everything I've heard from our community, it is a must-have. Of course, it's one of those that's kind of hard to get out there, and we're seeing more and more use of it. We're trying to make campaigns kind of push behind it for the download and that sort of stuff. When we're out doing our educational events or community risk reduction events, we're hey, take a look at this app, try and download it, and make everybody safer, trying to kind of push that connected technology. So, is it a must-have? Probably not right away, because you need to work through the system anyway. The system's a must-have first and foremost, but it sure is a nice to have. We've seen real good feedback from our community around it, and now that we have it, we won't go away from it, that's for sure. Yeah.
That's absolutely great. So one of the things I wanted to do just before, we've only got a couple of minutes left, was if you had to be talking to another fire chief that's looking into getting an emergency vehicle system, what are some of the key things he should keep his eyes open for? What should he look for when he's selecting an emergency vehicle preemption system?
So in our experience, the biggest thing, probably a couple things that we've really found that has worked well for us, first and foremost, is the customization. We have been able to get down very granular in the customization of this system, which has been a huge benefit for us because that customization is going to allow more buy-in from your crews to understand what's going on. And then two, really more than anything, is the support side of it. I don't know what else is out there company-wise. I don't know what other support's out there. And I realize I'm sitting in an AI studio, but when we have a problem, it's within a few hours that we get a response from AI on the customer side, because it's technology. It's going to have issues. It's just the nature of the beast. And so I would just urge you, if you're looking at a different system, really kind of do your homework and reach out to those referrals. And anybody who's looking at the system and considering AI, I welcome you guys to come to the city of Marietta. We'll throw you on the fire truck. We'll send you out. We'll run you on some calls so you can see this thing working, and you'll understand just how impressive this system is.
Well, Chief, I really appreciate your time. I think you've provided everybody with a hell of a lot of advice here, and there's a lot of information to actually process. So really appreciate it, and thanks very much for providing the the invite to people to come and see things, because I always say the same thing to everybody: come and experience emergency vehicle preemption, because that's really where you're going to see the major advantage.
We can talk about it all day until you actually see it working in action, and a video doesn't really even cut it. We, just real quick, when we first got this off the ground, we brought the news media in, we put them in the truck, we took them on a pseudo call, if you will, fake call, and they didn't understand it. We explained it to them beforehand, but once they saw it, they just came back and went, wow. And that's every time we have put somebody in there, they come back and go, wow. So yeah, it's that impressive.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks very much everybody for joining us. Next week at this time, we are going to be joined by the Hawaii DOT Director, Ed Sniffen, and Goldwings, who are going to be talking about a whole bunch of the connected vehicle projects that they're doing in Honolulu, the Big Island, Kauai, So if you guys want to feel like you're on vacation, join us next week, Tuesday from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And until then, thank you so much, and thank you very much, Chief.
Thank you. Appreciate it.